Representatives from your town, whether you live in Illinois, Missouri, or Iowa, have a better idea tonight on how to make it a better place.
News Since 5, WGEM's Claire Edlin tells us about how they put their heads together and came up with solutions at the 2023 Tri-State Development Summit in Quincy.
200 leaders and professionals taking notes,
23 cities together,
sharing ideas and plotting the future to improve your community.
Well, my speech was really about collaboration and how it's being done in other parts of the world.
Writer and entrepreneur Louis Zaccarella is this year's keynote speaker at the 2023 Tri-State Development Summit in Quincy.
What it is, it's an enormous problem-solving forum, which is really cool.
Zaccarella founded the Intelligent Community Forum, a think tank that helps tap into the potential of communities large and small and innovates new ideas.
The problems are kind of complex today, and the only way you solve those problems is together.
Some problems the Tri-States face right now: housing shortages, child care crises, and workforce challenges, all of which professionals address here.
Talking about alternate certifications for teachers to help address the teacher shortage in our region. We're talking about very important transportation projects for economic growth. And we're talking about a lot of the things at the community level that we can address together.
The event's executive director, Leslie Seek, who is also Culver Stockton College's vice president for economic workforce development, says she can bring her skills and learn from her counterparts.
Tri-State Development Summit in our region, our 36-county region, is really set to achieve great things in the next 5 to 10 years.
Seek says one initiative they plan to start after today is placemaking, making the Tri-States a place everyone wants to live. Claire Edlin, WGEM News, Quincy.
Some of those leaders today will be back tomorrow for the first Women in Business collaboration. More than 100 people will be there to hear from speakers in industries like healthcare and economic development.